Oh dear. Oh no, are we really going to dive into this? Yeah, I guess we have to, right? This was talked about by not only Pierre LeBrun, but also Frank Seravalli on different television programs for NHL content. This is a thing, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are doing a Montreal Canadiens trade update and going over some of the alarming news that has kind of taken over the fan base over the past 24 hours or so. So, our source, as we had said, there are two sources here, two individual conversations that are written about or talked about on the airwaves that both go over the same thing from two different guys as well. It's kind of funny how this scoop comes out of both Pierre LeBrun and Frank Seravalli's mouths on the same day. But I guess NHL news cycle is gonna NHL news cycle, right? Let's go over onto a tweet made by the TSN Hockey Twitter account, Early Trading. Pierre LeBrun speaks out on the Utah Hockey Club and the Habs exploring the trade market, as well as role players Team Finland is eyeing for the Four Nations face-off. This will be linked in the description below, as well as an article to HabsFanatics.com that goes out there and highlights the comments made by Pierre LeBrun in regards to the Canadiens. Let's scroll down here. Kent Hughes has typically been very patient when it comes to making trades, at least since his arrival with the Montreal Canadiens. He prefers to take his time and find internal solutions to his problems. However, according to a report from Pierre LeBrun, he may depart from his usual approach and act more quickly this season. He has reportedly already begun making calls to help shake his lineup. Now, I just wanted to address the beginning of that piece first and foremost. Kent Hughes, I think, has been one of the most liberal guys in the NHL when it comes to making trades and displaying a willingness to continue doing so. This idea that he kind of waits around and he's patient before pulling the trigger on a deal, I don't know, man. I feel like this guy makes a lot of trades. It's almost like Marc Bergevin, but just smarter. Anyways, let's scroll down here into the piece. Kent Hughes is attempting to finalize a trade. LeBrun is open about it. He doesn't believe that the Canadiens management thought that being in the playoff mix was very realistic. However, there is pressure, both internally and externally, to show at least some progress. That's why the Habs' slow start could not be taken lightly on the 7th floor of the Bell Center. Here's a quote from LeBrun. I don't think a slow start is being ignored here by the Habs. From what I've been told by speaking to other teams in the league, GM Kent Hughes has started calling around, doing his due diligence, and getting a sense of what might be possible. I believe the Canadiens would be willing to make a move here to shake up the lineup a bit and help this team win some games. Now, that doesn't really tell you much. So let's go over onto Habs on Reddit because their Twitter account had the other segment of this quote from Pierre LeBrun posted on their profile. The reality is that there are almost no trades at this time of the year. I don't think there's anything imminent for Montreal. The Habs aren't just sitting there saying, oh well, we're off to a slow start, that's life. I think that it has fueled Kent Hughes to make more calls than he might have this early into the season. The Habs aren't going to mortgage the future in any kind of deal. They're also right at the cap. Now, this idea, if you kind of just look at this quote by itself, doesn't really seem like the Canadiens have the option to do anything. It just says, hey, Kent Hughes is calling teams, but the Habs are strapped to the cap, and there's no real avenue to make a significant move right now because there aren't too many options available. So what gives here? Where exactly will the Canadiens go? This is where we dive into the other post made on Twitter by Frank Seravalli. He went out there and spoke on Sports on Prime CA, so pretty sure this is the Amazon Prime NHL programming. The video segment showcases him and Andy Petrillo talking about the aftermath of the Shea Theodore signing, and then there's a conversation about the Habs. The tweet reads this. The Montreal Canadiens are checking prices to add a top 4 right-shooting defenseman. With the future well arranged, it's expensive for a stopgap solution, but the Habs also recognize this current situation is not ideal. There also is another article published on HabsFanatics.com that dives into these comments made by Seravalli. According to Seravalli from DFO, the Canadiens are in the market for a right-shot D-man. They're checking prices to add a top-4 right-shot defenseman. With the future well secure, the temporary solution is costly, but the Habs also recognize that the current situation is not ideal, said Seravalli. And so with this in mind, my mind kind of defaults to, really, right-handed defenseman, top 4 right-handed D. Well, honestly, there's only really like one available on the market, and you can say that it's not really even noteworthy for him to be mentioned in a conversation like this because his team is winning. I'm referring to the guys on the Calgary Flames, Rasmus Andersson, and I guess you could say Mackenzie Weegar too. I mean, I don't really think he's that available, but still, there aren't really too many right-handed top 4 caliber defensemen that are available around the trade market, especially this time of the year. By the way, speaking about right-handed defensemen on the Montreal Canadiens, I just noticed this, now I'm on Elite Prospects. Happy birthday to David Reinbacher, who turns 20 years old. Man, talk about a terrible coincidence timing-wise. If that guy was just healthy, maybe he could have been the right-handed defenseman the Canadiens could have been looking for. Maybe not a top 4 guy necessarily, but still a guy that could have been useful. Anyways, the Montreal Canadiens being in this spot where they're diving into the market for a D-man, it isn't really surprising to understand why they're here. I mean, the team has sucked for a good chunk of the year, and they haven't really been progressing forward. But that's okay, right? A lot of people weren't expecting the Canadiens to be a cup-contending team in 2024-2025. But at the same time, I think a lot of Habs fans expected a little bit better than what you're seeing right now. The question is, though, have these results been so bad that it warrants going out there and mortgaging some part of the future? Maybe not a huge part, like Pierre LeBrun saying the Canadiens don't want to tear away everything that they've acquired for the next few years, but they do want to make some sort of a splash. What's the most that you would be willing to give up in some sort of a trade for a right-handed D-man? You're also probably going to have to give up some picks too. Like, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to trade away Reinbacher and that's it, or one other prospect that's not too great. We're going to trade away Philip Bechar for a top 4 right-handed D. No, you're probably going to have to add some picks, assuming you don't want to trade away too many prospects that are already in the system, right? So what exactly is the price on that? And for a team like Montreal to be in this sort of a discussion, I feel like really this might be the first time we have seen the Kent Hughes regime be in a position to buy. And I say buy with the intention of not necessarily getting a guy who's going to be good for the future, but just a guy who's good for the now. Because all these other trades the Habs have done with Kent Hughes at the helm, they acquired Alex Newhook, they acquired Kirby Dach, they traded away guys like Sean Monahan and Casey DeSmith and Jake Allen and Petrie and all these guys, right? They've been selling and selling and selling, not too much buying. And the guys they have bought have been young enough to justify being put into that position. None of these guys have been developed and bolstered up as a project in the NHL for a significant period on another team and then got traded to Montreal. I think the last time the Canadiens got a legitimate right-handed defenseman, a top 4 guy in a trade, might have been Shea Weber. I don't know, it's been a long time. David Savard, I don't really think he counts because he was a free agent signee, and you can't really do that right now. The Habs have to explore the trade market if they wanted to add another name like that. So you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about potential names that could be tossed out there? I just thrown out 2 from the Calgary Flames because the Flames happen to have that sort of discourse surrounding their team the past little while here, although I will acknowledge that they've been winning, so I don't think they're in a position of wanting to sell away some of their guys at this moment. So what other names could possibly be out there? Top 4 guy, right-handed guy, Montreal Canadiens target. Is there a name that stands out to you, and if so, what do you think the price should be to acquire him? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these Pierre LeBrun and Frank Seravalli updates for the Montreal Canadiens, and how this could set off some alarms as to whether or not the Montreal Canadiens should really be in a position to make these kinds of trades. I saw some people on the Habs subreddit talking about how this could be essentially the Christian Dvorak trade all over again, except on defense. Do you agree with that? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.